Welcome to a daily standard chess game on Feisty Chess. I've been paired with Kuba2222 on chess.com, a 15-10 game. Okay, we have a Sicilian. Going to play our thing, going to play another Morra Gambit. Got to redeem this from last time. Alright, our opponent accepts. E6. A lot of our moves are pretty standard here and can come out without too much consideration. I do know this opening pretty well though, so okay. Yeah, castling is good here. This is a good system. I think, okay, he's going for the immediate capture. I got the two bishops. This is a long-term kind of positional compensation game. But that looks like a pretty annoying pin I can get his knight into. He'll need to deal with that pretty quickly. But my e-pawn hangs if I pin immediately. So let's play queen to e2, guarding the e-pawn, and watching that bishop as well. If he castles, bishop g5 looks pretty good. I don't see how he gets out of that pin without... Okay. Okay. This can't be that good. I can make a threat on g7 after taking. I didn't consider this, I'll admit it. But just playing sound opening moves, and he hasn't castled yet, so I think I can just take here. I'll go ahead and do that. He has to play d5 to recoup the piece. But I've got queen to g4, and he can take my bishop, but he won't get castled anytime soon. His position looks pretty vulnerable. Yeah, let's go queen here. He doesn't have queen f6. Sometimes in these kind of positions, queen f6 is available if there's a knight that's still watching over f6, or a bishop. But not here, so he has to play rook f8, and I believe I just win the exchange after bishop to h6 here. Pretty much forces queen to e7, and check to see if there's anything better. Bishop a3 any better? He can play knight to e7 in that case. Is bishop to g5 a good move in the meantime? He gets f6. I'll consider bishop g5 here, but if I don't see anything super convincing, I think I'd better just go for bishop to h6. Bishop g5, queen. It doesn't... Yeah, it makes a threat, but... I just add an extra move. I'm just going with the simple move that wins the exchange. It's a creative move that Kuba played here, but it wasn't considered enough, wasn't well thought through. It's a common way of winning the exchange, actually. I could actually just wait and put a rook on the d file. And kind of tie him up. I don't need to take that rook immediately. He can't save it. So yeah, nice position here. I think I'll use this rook. The other rook might want to sit on the b file. Let me just make sure I'm not letting something slip through here. There's no other way he can put a... Yeah, can't move the rook, can't put a defender on f8. Even if he could put a defender, another one on f8, it wouldn't matter much. So probably like f5 or f6 here. Ooh, this loses bishop. Actually, he's going to be down a whole rook. This is the kind of trap that rook to d1 set. He can't recapture my bishop without losing his. Okay, I think I've been punching below my weight on chess.com here. Just getting back into the swing of things. So I'm looking forward to moving up the rating ladder. No reason not to take. And he's not even up a pawn at this point. Knight g5 looks... well... let's just get our other rook active here. I'll try to finish this quickly. Okay, now this means once his knight moves, I can just grab on a7. But maybe I want a rook still on the d file. Now if he plays knight e5, I'll just grab on a7. Back to f3, I don't mind if he trades knights, obviously. My next move will be... He could play a sneaky move like, yeah, like that. Take, 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 pawn takes, king f1, and I'm totally fine. So let's just get these knights off the board. His is definitely better than mine. get these pawns in a nice, neat chain here. Okay, this is perfect. Because now I can stop any further pawn moves. His king is completely contained. Mine can come via f2 to e3. And it's very simple. If he moves that rook, he's getting mated, so... Okay. I'm going to decline that rematch, do my usual protocol. Thank you for the game. Cuba2222, Cuba. Smith Morra Gambit. E6, knight c6, these are all fine moves. Yeah, the bishop b4 line. So the idea is trying to trade off pieces. When you're up a pawn, you try to trade off pieces. That makes sense. I could go with queen c2 immediately to try to keep my pawn structure intact, but in a gambit, you want to get moving with development. Do your thing. He went with the immediate capture, which actually I think this is a pretty good line against the Morra, or I don't know at least how to directly refute it. And yeah, maybe e5 is a bit of a better try here. But this was fine as it turns out. But I'll admit that I didn't see the possibility of knight takes e4 and the fork coming on d5. That's often a theme in the Morra Gambit when your bishop's on c4. But here, obviously, because I had queen to g4, did not work out for him. And bishop d7 was just, I mean, he can continue to play on down in exchange. He'll have to trade queens and be down in exchange. But you know, that's a lost game, but you can still fight for some chances to draw. You can still play on, but here he just loses the whole rook because he drops that bishop after he loses the exchange. So yeah, instructive game as far as how... I guess I played pretty well here converting this. Simple plans. It's not anything extraordinary, but there's some ways white can go wrong. But what can we get out of this game? That tactical idea is probably the most important. Queen takes here, and if the rook has to come to f8, if the bishop can back up that queen, even if white, if bishop can back up the queen on g7 by coming to h6, it's usually the queen, the black queen is the only piece that can defend that, and that just wins in exchange. So, yeah, black is kind of stuck here. Maybe b6 or a6. Yeah, I don't see a really good way to proceed. F6 might be needed. That at least threatens to not lose the exchange. F6 or F5. Probably F6 keeps the knight under control. So at this point, black is already losing the exchange, but F6, queen takes, bishop takes, and then king takes. Fortunately, the knight is guarding d8. Nothing would be guarding d7, you can see. And at this point, maybe I don't know, white can do lots of things to try to make use of these rooks. A4 is an idea, or maybe just rook to d6, and yeah, just making it difficult for black to develop his pieces. Doubling on the d file. Yeah, this looks lost either way for black. The key mistake is obviously knight takes e4. But again, the theme is he's trying to simplify. Better for black here would be obviously a castle, which would threaten knight takes d4, and I might not even see that threat. Or h6, which would prevent bishop to g5, which I was planning. Probably h6 is the best move here. I'm not sure I like black's position because h6 is also a move that doesn't get a piece out and allows white to keep developing pieces. Probably I'll go rook to d1 next. Or maybe h3 and then I'm planning e5. No, here I could play e5. Yeah, this looks good for white. Let's say h6 to prevent that pin. E5, that knight has to go, doesn't want to go home. Could go to h7. This is no good because h3 will win the knight. H5 probably isn't really good either. No, that gets trapped by g4. A useful theme to know. Knight here, I can give up the bishop, and I'm going to double these pawns, and I shouldn't have a difficult time winning back that material and leaving black with just as bad a structure as I have and still behind in development. So, yeah, let's look at the alternative of castling here. Maybe d6 is also worth looking at. Castling, my plan was to go bishop g5, and if he wants to try to break the pin, I'm going to make him play g5 because there's no way that black can get out of this without some kind of tactic moving his queen away. But everything looks covered over here, so I don't think he has that kind of tactic. So he's got to go g5. You might as well do it now because I'm threatening e5. So at this point, I've got ideas of h4 and other ways of weakening that king side. I've got my two bishops, and his king is getting in an airy position here. So, yeah, the pawn is a pawn. Let's try d6. That's a little more thematic with Morra, with the Morra game. Maybe planning e5 and then castling. Black's extra pawn will still be on the board, and it'll be a key pawn here, this d central pawn, but the reason he'll want to play e5 here is to stop me from playing e5, which can really get good for white. Let's see. I could play e5 here. He can't take with his knight or his pawn because I can just take. Well, this pawn is pinned. So here he's got to play something like knight here, and I can simply take and put him in this pin and put more pressure on that pin with, say, bishop f4. He's got to play e5. And then after knight take, I mean, I've already got my pawn back, and this just looks really good for white. It's looking complicated, but after a move like this, which looks appealing to pin that knight, we've got this great move here. Bishop takes f7, knight takes, and then rook takes queen. And I may lose this knight, but I'm gonna have a queen. Maybe knight takes is best here, and then I can pin that knight and get out of the pin myself. If he plays bishop here, then okay. He's breaking the pin on his knight, but also he's getting in the way of his rook's attack. So I like white here. I mean, the material imbalance is a rook and a piece for the queen, and white has an extra pawn. So that's materially in white's favor. Doesn't look like he'll be able to win much of anything. He won't be able to win this knight. So, okay, maybe d6 is not that appealing either. This is what I love about the Morra Gambit. I have never looked at this in this depth before. And this line here, go back to this. Maybe knight f6 was a mistake already. Maybe he needed to go knight e7. That's the usual idea with early e6 moves. Yeah, I think knight f6 was his mistake. But it's hard to know that unless you've really studied this stuff. And even I didn't know that until I looked through these variations. It looks like knight f6 puts black in a really tough spot. Let's check what the computer thinks. Okay, now the computer starts in. It gives white. Oh, we've got to get back there with the computer. Okay, gives white a plus 0.5 advantage, and now a plus 0.82. So the computer likes that bishop pair. It's probably showing knight e7 as the line. Yeah, this knight f6 is good. It says queen e2 is best. And now knight takes e4 is a definite mistake. Let's look at some of these alternatives. h6, bishop a3. Oh, just stopping black from castling. h6 is an inaccuracy. The idea is now to go to a3 with the bishop. And if black tries to play d6, then just bring in a rook to d1. Yeah. Suppose, yeah. And if you play d5, you just forget about castling. On the king side, at least. So h6 is an inaccuracy. What about castling immediately? It says it's best. And then e5, knight to d5. And black just needs to accept. Queen to c2. Yeah, bishop takes d5. That's more intuitive here. Now rook to d1. Black really can't afford to try to hang on to that pawn. If you try something like this, then just c4, trying to open things up. You can keep your pawn. I mean, just look at the activity. Look at black's pieces. That light square bishop is just completely buried, which is a very common theme in the Morra Gambit. Black's queen side, other than his knight, is completely just stuffed up there. Alright, let's look at d6. What does the computer think? It's inaccurate. Again, bishop a3 being the idea. You could probably transpose this with rook f1 as well. This is probably a good move. Rook d1. Okay. Likes bishop a3 better. I said a6 earlier. Yeah. So, the principle of trading off your pieces is not bad. There are worse things you can do against the Morra Gambit here. But this does give white the two bishops, and quite a bit of scope for each bishop already. So, okay. Useful line in the Morra to know. I think in Esserman's book, he doesn't give the immediate bishop takes. I think he gives knight g7 here. And then once we play maybe bishop to e3, well, he thinks white's best chance here is queen takes, and then once this trade happens, which was black's plan, we recapture in a way that keeps our C and D files open and keeps our A and B pawns teamed up there. So yeah, black a castle. It says queen takes C3 is inaccurate. Computer likes B takes C3 anyway, so maybe queen C2 is not too worth it. But again, the computers can't be trusted too blindly in these opening positions. Okay, let's look at the game in its entirety again. Well, that's probably about all the further we need to look. Common theme there: bishop and queen teaming up on a rook stuck on f8, only protected by the king, winning the exchange. That's the main takeaway from this game. So, hope you enjoyed this, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.